Good afternoon and welcome to this Mind the Body Wellness Live Health Talk. And this particular episode, episode 25, is led and introduced by myself, Esther Apoussidis. So I'm one of the directors of Thriving Communities. I'm one of their main facilitators, and I also am a holistic therapist. I have my own business called MindBody Oasis, which is based in Whitchurch in Cardiff. So today I have the lovely task of talking to you about the healing power of reflexology. And it's one of my favourite treatments, both to receive and to give. And my clients also testify to the almost miraculous benefits that they get from their reflexology treatment. So I work with both the feet, hands, face, and the cranium in terms of reflexology. There is also auricular reflexology, but that's not my domain, and something that I'm not particularly interested in doing because of its very compact nature and difficulty of accessing certain reflex points. So I'm going to share some slides now and talk you through this presentation. And whilst I don't have anybody joining me live today, so there won't be a Q&A as such, but if you have questions in response to this recording on YouTube, please do drop them in the comments, and I will then hopefully get back to you if you have any queries, or if you need any support, or if you would like more information as to the services that I offer. So I'm going to share my screen now and my slides. Oh, I've got somebody about to join me. So I have got somebody. Hello there. I've got a number here. I don't know who that is. Very unusual number. But thank you for joining me. And I was just about to share my slides, and I've just done a brief introduction, but I will cover it myself again. If you just bear with me, and I'll go to my slides. So, sorry, that's my present. Oh, hello. Hello, Renata. Lovely to have you. Let me just present my slides. So let me just get this toolbar of Zoom out the way, because it's a bit distracting. So I'm going to talk to you today, episode 25, about the healing power of reflexology and how to better manage your health and well-being. And lovely Renata here is one of my clients, and was also a good friend, and yeah, and knows about Thriving Communities as well, because she does some of the coach trips as well with us, and the half-day retreats. So about myself, as I mentioned, I'm a holistic therapist, also an energy alignment method mentor. So what is the energy alignment method? It is a form of energy kinesiology, using the whole body as a mechanism, biofeedback mechanism, to understand where we're holding on to resistant energy and how we can release that and to get back into flow and harmony. Physically, emotionally, and mentally, and also spiritually. So I'm one of the lead project facilitators at Thriving Communities, and it's in that capacity that I'm talking to you today. It's part of our series of Mind and Body Wellness Live Health Talks. So the agenda today is what is reflexology and its history, and how reflexology works, some theories, evidence, benefits and cautions, and types of reflexology. So obviously my passion is also for foot, facial and cranial reflexology. And then we're going to do some practical demos and then end with a Q&A and a special offer. So what is reflexology? So by definition, it is a gentle pressure or manipulation of a reflex, which is a map point on the foot, face or cranium that's intended to affect and influence other parts of the body. So certain parts of the feet correspond to certain parts of the body, and the same with the face and the same with the cranium. The emphasis is that it's a complementary approach, so we don't offer a diagnosis or replacement or substitute for medical care, but it is designed to support the body in attaining a rest and digest state to help improve sleep, cellular repair, homeostasis, what we call the balance of energy in the body, and healing. So let's do a quick summary of the history of reflexology. This is very, very brief. So we have early evidence from Egyptian times, from the Saqqara Akhenaten tomb, which is dated around 2330 BC. There were wall paintings on the tomb of foot treatments. So you can see that they're manipulating the feet here. There is a series of them. This is a rather truncated picture of the image. And there are a series of people sitting one in front of the other and taking the foot and massaging the feet. So this Akhenaten was one of the pharaoh's leading physician. Then we also have evidence from China. So the Chinese classic, the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, was written around 1000 BC, and it has a chapter on examining the foot method. And then more recently, in the zone therapy was introduced by Dr. William Fitzgerald. He introduced the 10 vertical zones on the feet, so 5 on each foot, in the late 19th and early 20th century. And then it was further developed by Dr. Shelby Riley. And then Eunice Ingham was really the main protagonist in the 20th century about who popularized the reflexology maps that we know more or less today. That was done in the 1930s. And not a lot has changed since then, to be honest. We just get better and better at maybe intuiting things as a reflexologist and using those same maps. So how does reflexology work? So there's a number of things that it does touch upon. The autonomic nervous system modulation. So using reflex pressure may influence the sympathetic and the parasympathetic balance. This is what I call the homeostasis, bringing the mind and body into a deep state of deep rest. Then there is the gate control or pain gate theory. So by stimulating through touch, we stimulate certain nerves, peripheral nerves, that so if you can imagine, like the spinal cord may have like a gate on it that allows certain, letting somebody else into the call. So so the touch sense nerves actually move faster than the pain conducting nerves. So what happens is then when you stimulate those touch of the sensory, the peripheral nerves, it sort of acts as a inhibitor for the pain nerves, the pain signals. So it dampens the pain, and that's what's called the pain gate theory. You can learn more on the internet. You can go into a bit more detail, but basically it acts as a little bit of a guard or block against the pain nerves, the pain signals, the nerves that transmit pain signals by activating these sensory nerves. And then there's a hemodynamic microcirculation of vasodilations effect of reflexology, so improving the blood flow to the corresponding organs and also removing of local stagnation. So some of you may have heard of reflexology lymphatic drainage. So basically that's meant to reduce lymphedema, so the stagnation of lymph, often after some sort of injury or damage to a point in the body. And we can often notice it in the ankle area or behind that ankle, which we call the sciatic area. And there's a lot of inflammation. And with actually reflexology, even just the massage alone, without stimulating some of the reflex points, really correlating to the lymphatic system, can help really reduce inflammatory signals or indicators. So we can actually inhibit the effect and reduce that strain and therefore ease that point, because obviously what happens when we have too much lymph stagnating, it causes pressure on other on the joints, on blood flow, and then the blood doesn't travel as well, and also we get that tenderness and pain and swelling around joints. So carrying on with how does reflexology work? So there is also the endorphin, the neurochemical release and the relaxation response. So through touch, through the parasympathetic nervous system activation, we have the reduction of cortisol, which is a major stress hormone in the body, and the release of pain modulating peptides. Psychologically, so it can be that placebo effect or the therapeutic, what we call the therapeutic touch effect. And behind that is a lot to do with intention. So that's why sometimes you can get a different experience with different reflexologists. So, it's all on the energy of the therapist and how the intention she commits behind that reflexology treatment. And also that symbiotic relationship between the client and the therapist. So the more you can encourage your client to relax, to let go, feel more comfortable, provide a welcoming, soothing environment, that will help the whole overall effect and it will enhance the reflexology treatment and its beneficial effects. So what does the evidence say? So these are some examples. So I've quoted here from this study. So foot reflexology, following some randomized control trials of 2,366 participants, what they showed was a significant improvement in depression, in anxiety, and also sleep quality. And just generally across the board, if you look at my own website and also my presence on Fresher, you can get lots of reviews, how reflexology repeatedly shows positive effect on quality of life, stress, anxiety, pain in many studied groups. So the Federation of Holistic Therapists, of which I'm a member, conducted a member survey amongst their therapists and their respective patients or clients, and that they conducted, it's not that long ago that they conducted this study, and it showed that there was, and it was quite a representative study, they showed a reduction in doctors' visits by as much as 37%. Now, they did this across a range of complementary therapies. I think about 5, and reflexology was amongst them. So they also showed a reduction in stress and anxiety by 54%, muscular pains by 41%, and lower back by 26%, and joint problems 22%, as well as tiredness and fatigue. And believe it or not, reflexology topped the billboard amongst all the other therapies that were under review in terms of efficacy, in terms of impact, beneficial impact, that it topped even acupuncture, and Reiki. So it just shows you the power of reflexology, really, anecdotally, and also in terms of the studies and the evidence. So the benefits to the body, so physiology, is that it can reduce stress and tension by lowering the sympathetic overdrive, that fight response in the body, and it can provide pain relief, particularly back pain, headaches, and improve the circulation or the microvascular flow. It supports the digestive system and helps with the gastrointestinal health and elimination. Sorry, it should have been elimination of toxins from the body. Again, that homeostasis, it works on the endocrine system, so it creates that hormonal balance. So if you've got hormonal imbalances, whether that's going through hormonal changes through adolescence or any time through adult life, and particularly through menopause. So I'm also trained in reflexology for menopause, and then also supports sleep quality and helps relieve physical symptoms such as sinus congestion, as I said, and it offers that menstrual reproductive support. So there are fertility reflexologists out there as well to help improve your chances of conceiving. And mental and emotional benefits we know are the greater sense of calm, relaxation, clarity, reduced anxiety or depressive mood, improved mood, as we see, and resilience, and supporting that self-care and that mind-body connection. And when to avoid reflexology. So there are some contraindications. So when you are in a fever, so febrile state, have an acute infection or have some acute inflammation. DVT, so the vein thrombosis, or any varicosities, so unstable conditions that you can't manage. Severe circulatory disorders, uncontrolled blood pressure. Now, I've got to say that blood pressure is actually a good, reflexology helps control high blood pressure and perhaps bring it down. But obviously, if it's not controlled, then we would caution not to treat that patient or that client. Pregnancy, we always try and avoid the first trimester, although you will find that there are some pregnancy reflexologists who would say otherwise, but we've been taught as mainstream reflexologists just to avoid that delicate period until that fetus is actually a little bit more independent. And then the high risk pregnancies as well, obviously, we have to avoid certain points. So it may be that it'll be a modulated or a varied reflexology treatment. Obviously, you wouldn't do foot reflexology or facial reflexology on any open wounds or infectious points on the face or foot. And then recent research surgery would avoid fractures and any implants. So with facial reflexology, we advise that we won't do any reflexology on the face if the client has had any Botox or fillers in the last 2 or 3 weeks and the previous prior to the treatment. So, and then because obviously there's poison in the Botox, so it's like we wouldn't want to move that around the face. And then severe neuropathy, where sensation is severely impaired. Obviously, then the client can't inform us if something is overly sensitive or if there's a delicate area or a problem area. And then that's where we've also got exercise caution with those suffering from diabetes. Although, having said that, reflexology is great treatment, certainly the foot one for diabetes. And then cancer clients. So it usually is, so cautionary note is that we do it as a complementary treatment rather than an alternative to oncology care. So reflexology is often introduced often often post chemotherapy to help relax, or even in the lead up to chemo radiotherapy to help relax the body and ease the stress and tension, both physiologically and also psychologically. But we don't say it's a cure. And then we cover a little bit the ethics and expectations. So it's important that any reflexologist is honest and open and says what the limitations are, also what the potential benefits could be. But we often get pressurized, or what does that mean? What does that mean? No, reflexologists are trained, or those that are properly trained are taught not to diagnose. We can state what it is. We can state whether there is an imbalance, but we always say if you've got any concerns, go to your GP and they can advise further and maybe escalate it through specialist support. But, we always gain the consent, we always screen, we always do a consultation process first of all, and then we also should communicate those boundaries, so where there are certain limitations to the treatment, what it won't do, what it can do, and just be realistic and be honest with the client, and that we are in a supportive role. So we don't aim to always, we're not there to cure, because ultimately the body self-cures. We just create a facilitating environment for the body to relax and do what it can do when it's really at ease. So any stress in the body is when we inhibit our body's own healing response. So this is all about creating that calm, sympathetic environment for the client. So we always monitor the client's response and adapt the pressure accordingly. So we'd never do anything. So when you've had a painful foot reflexology, then it's not correct, because either you haven't communicated to the reflexologist, or the reflexologist hasn't learned to relax the pressure in response to any physical reactions that she receives from the client. So in my opinion, it should never be painful, really intensely painful reflexology treatment. There can be a bit of discomfort sometimes when coming over a very sensitive or tight reflex point, but then we have to modulate the pressure and then check in with the client. And the client has to be open and has to communicate how they're feeling. And that's very, very important, that relationship between client and reflexologist or therapist, that there has to be that open communication. And obviously it comes back to that, you provide that environment of trust, and we're here to listen to you, and to make sure that you have the best outcome and the best experience as well. So there will always be a variability in response, and we have to take into account that there is a placebo or expectation effect. So sometimes if people have very high expectations and they have that treatment, and then they think, oh, that wasn't very good, because obviously there is an expectation effect. So there's always a need for more rigorous evidence. We know that not enough money is put into alternative complementary therapies. There are signs that this is changing. Apparently in the States, they're starting to do more MRI studies and showing how foot reflexology does actually work, and how it does influence the brain and the chemical interactions between the mind and body. Foot reflexology, I'll just cover that now. So the typical strengths, so we're going to go into each of those three main reflexology treatments that I offer. And it's typically what it's most suited for, and why it's a good treatment. So the typical strengths are that because it addresses some of the lower body complaints, foot reflexology, including lower back pain, sciatica, musculoskeletal problems in the limbs, and then also with the digestion, IBS, and constipation and bloating. It can help with hormonal issues, as I said. With the reproductive side, there are fertility reflexologists. It can help with menstruation problems and with pregnancy support. And diabetes management, as I mentioned previously, and that neuropathy support. So we've known that it can be helpful for those suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, and also with motor neuron disease to a certain extent. Restless leg syndrome and circulatory issues it can address, and just really enhance your overall well-being, provide that stress relief, and encourage sleep. So the mechanism advantages of foot reflexology is that there are more clear signals when stimulating the reflex points on the foot. So you can tell when a reflex is off kilter. So you often get that, so we understand it by a crunchiness. There's a stickiness there, or a tightness. And that's how we generally pick up on some imbalances in a particular reflex. And also it offers a really quite an accessible working area, and a broad working area. And I like the fact that I've been trained to do 2 feet independently. There are reflexologists that do both feet together, but I like working 1 foot at a time, and that's the way I've been trained. So there's a clear division between the left and right side of the body, because the left foot correlates to the left side of the body, and the right foot correlates to the right side of the body. And like massage, we start with the right side of the body rather than the left. And obviously moving over to the left, we cover more of the digestive system, and on the right we cover more of the liver function, and so forth. So there is a clear separation. There are obviously shared reflexes across both feet, but yeah, it's a very, very gives us clear insight into what's happening in the body. Facial reflexology is perhaps my favourite treatment to both receive, as I mentioned at the outset, and to give. So particular problems it can address is tinnitus, sinusitis and nasal congestion, Bell's palsy. So I've had a couple of clients who've come to me because of Bell's palsy, and that's often stress induced. So where there's that slight paralysis in the face, and it's had, we're not talking about one treatment, we're talking about a series of treatment to move to healing that area of the face, and and that recovery of the facial nerve. And it does work, and I've proven it. I've proven it with a couple of my clients. there's a definite improvement and an actual healing of the nerves. So menopause symptoms. So again, I'm a reflexologist for menopause. I've trained in specifically under Ziggy Bergman, and we can address then, and I will cover a little demo, hot flashes and a hormonal balancing. General stress, anxiety, and we can then address that with activating the brain area. And again, I'll show you and certain parts of like the stress function, which are the adrenals. So we'll cover that in one of the demonstrations in a moment. And obviously with working facial reflexology, it helps improve the blood flow in the face, so you get more of a healthy complexion. It can improve from a sallow complexion to a more glowing complexion, and skin turnover, so that desquamation, that sort of reducing, getting rid, shedding the old skin, and help stimulate that renewal, skin renewal. And again, that enhances the complexion as well. And again, with like the foot, there's a lymphatic drainage effect with reflexology, so we can get rid of puffiness around the eyes, here around the jowls, and around the sinuses as well. So the advantage is that it's easily accessible, even more so than the feet, particularly in terms of self-care routines. So what I'm going to show you is sort of some routines that you can do on yourself, because it can be easily done on the face. And it's an alternative if the feet are overly sensitive or carry some infection, so either fungal infection or has a verruca. And cranial reflexology, let's touch on that because it's not that well known. Oh, sorry. I just paused it by accident. I'm trying to move this bar away from my heading. So yeah, it's not there are not so many cranial reflexologists, but I imagine with Ziggy Bergman at the helm, she's going to be teaching many more reflexologists the wonders of cranial reflexology. So it helps with relief from stress and mental fatigue. So it helps then stimulate the clarity and focus, relieves tension, headaches and migraines. Again, it works on the digestive system, can improve sleep, and helps to regulate the nervous system. And once again, helps with musculoskeletal chain tension, especially affecting the head and neck. So when we hold a lot of tension in the back of our neck, in the occipital area, and cranial reflexology is great for that. So really the advantage is great as a complementary thing to the foot or the facial. What I notice is that it creates that better balance between the left and right brain hemisphere. So what we do as part of cranial reflexology is we do that palpation on the skull first of all, where we actually just holding the top of the head, the skull, and noticing literally the signals being traveling in the brain. It's an incredible sensation. The longer you hold the head, the longer you actually tune into the rhythms in the skull. And it's not just about the fluid there, the cranial, the spinal, the fluids, that carry the nerve signals. It's more to do with the energy and that rhythm, that connection between the brain and the heart, the way the brain responds to the heart pulsations. And let's start now with a practical, because I'm sure you're dying to try this out. So we're going to try now the stress one. So what we do is we do this in the Mind and Body Wellness program in person. I bring spoons along, teaspoons. But you can do this with your index finger as well. You don't need a teaspoon, but a teaspoon is a really nice cooling effect. It has a really nice cooling effect on those stress points. But it's usually applied on the brain. So we're going to work on what's called the brain and head or the brain area reflex. It includes the pituitary, it includes the pineal, which is the gland that helps with sleep, and it includes the hypothalamus, which is all about that endocrine balance. same as the pituitary, but the hypothalamus helps regulate, introduce homeostasis and helps with the temperature of the body. So when we have so I'll cover that in the menopause one in a minute as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the index finger. We're going to find a little bit of a dip in the center between the brows, move it up just underneath the center of the forehead. And there is a slight indentation in your forehead. So that is the point of the pituitary gland. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put our finger there, index finger, the pad of it, and we're just going to move the skin around. So we're not moving the finger, we're just pushing the finger on that spot. So we're just rotating the spot, if you like. And we're going to move it around and apply a little bit of pressure, nothing too extreme, and you don't want to be digging your nails into that reflex point either. And then you can just come off briefly, and then you can push it back in a bit and then move it around, move that skin around that spot, and do that another 10 to 15 seconds. Doesn't have to be too long. And then come off. And then we recommend doing it about 2 or 3 times, it doesn't matter. And use it again. Okay, pushing it around that spot and then coming off. And then what we can do is then expand that area. So we're going to start off with the pituitary and then move out and around it. And we're going to move now across that forehead, over that center part of the forehead, in a slightly almond shape. So we're going to, you can see on the picture there, it's a little bit of an oval, elongated egg shape. So we're going to actually extend it up and down and around. And using the index finger, you can just keep massaging that area to take in the other glands. And then instead of the index finger, you can apply the back of the spoon and do the same thing. Move it around that spot. Nice, and it's actually lovely and cooling and relaxing when you have something cold in that point as well. It helps. So obviously when we're stressed, our body temperature seems to go up. And then what this does, this cooling effect helps to stimulate that brain area, but also helps to cool us down and then reduce the stress effect in our bodies. So it's really lovely. Now, another area when you're stressed, we get a lot of tension headaches, is then, so the occipital, as I mentioned, the back of the neck here, base. And then what we're going to do is, this is the reflex point for the occipitals. It's just at the start of the brow, under the brow bone. So we're going to place all our fingers on top of our head and then as a purchase point. And we're going to use the pads of the thumb, if we can, underneath that brow bone, underneath the start of the eyebrow. And then we're going to push in, use the pads, not the nails, push in and lift up slightly and hold for a bit. So we're now stimulating the occipital reflexes on the face. And then release. Not too long this time. You can feel it. If you've got a bit of tension, which I have, a bit of tiredness, you can feel that sensitivity and that delicateness there. Push in and lift up. And as if you're almost like letting all that tension go, release. And again, one more time. Push in, lift up, and release. So that's the occipitals. And now we're going to go to the adrenals. So if you imagine there's a plumb line floating down from the center of your eye, and it's just going to come across your cheekbones, and then a little bit further from that down below, you're going to use both index fingers, the pads of each, to actually, it's just a pushing and up again with this one. So you're pushing in and then pushing up into the adrenal reflexes. Pushing in and up. Almost up to the cheekbones. Well, you will feel the contact with the cheekbones, the zygomatic. And pushing in and up and release. So that's the so that's for the stress. So now we're going to insomnia. Again, what we're going to do is, this is very similar, obviously. We're going to work on the spoon effect or the index finger. Again, we work on the brain, so we're massaging over and over around that area. Nice bit of firm pressure, not too extreme. And again, avoid putting nails into your skin. Okay, so it's about 30 seconds, that golden area. You're going to massage and stimulate in circles on that golden area for around 30 seconds. Okay, so you can use a teaspoon, you can use your index finger. So I'm going to use a bit both to show you the alternative. Okay. So as I said, this includes the pineal glands, and pineal releases serotonin, so it helps boost the mood, and also releases melatonin, which melatonin helps as a trigger in our body to induce sleep. So that's why it's good for insomnia, this reflex. Okay. And then the other reflex we're going to manipulate is actually this line up the center of the forehead from between the brows right up to the hairline. This is the spine. So we're activating the spinal cord. We're going to actually, and a reflexologist will actually do the caterpillar walk. So it's like push in and slide, push in, slide. And it's like you imagine yourself as a caterpillar with your hand. But you don't have to. If you can't do that technique, you can just do an over stroke with one index finger over the other and slowly move up that center line towards the hairline. So you're rolling one finger over the other, just stroking upwards. That's a really nice soothing effect and help with sleep. So we do this nice, gradually moving up, starting at the bottom there between the bridge of the nose and then working up to the hairline there. So again, we're going to help with here. Again, we're moving back to that same reflex here. The adrenals helping that, pushing up and up, pushing in and up. And pushing in and up into the cheekbone there. Medium pressure. Okay, so it's a little bit higher. We're going to just quickly, because I'm conscious of time, work on the headache buster. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on here, the occipitals again. So as I said, there's a lot of pressure. We get a lot of headaches because of the build up of tension in the back of the neck. So we can do the occipitals again. Yeah. And then massage down into the corner of the eye. Moving up. So we're going to press the eyebrows up. So it's only just literally moving up as I showed you in the first one. And then what we're going to do is you can then stimulate here, this point on the temples, massaging the spot around. So I'm not too fussed. You can use the middle finger or you can use the index finger. It doesn't really matter. And then this here, TMJ point that here, we get a lot of tension between here and this, where the hinge point is on the jaw. So if you do this, just tuck front of your ear and just where the cheekbone is and the jawbone. Yeah, moving around. And you can actually sweep up, almost like in a triangle, moving, using both index and middle finger, and massaging and then rotating around, easing out the tension here. And then just at the base of the skull here, underneath the ear, so just applying a bit of pressure there, just moving. As you can see, those two gold spots here, just circulatory motion, easing out any tension here, pushing up. Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I come back to that bridge of the, so it does say bridge of the most pressure, but it depends. It's all a personal thing. I prefer the occipital bit rather than that squeezing the nose. Now we're going to move on. It's not relevant to everybody who's, oh, I've got a bit of a, oh, no, it's trying to press print. So let me present from, sorry, it's gone, come out of it. I must have touched something wrong. So menopause. So very similar reflexes again. So what we're going to do is again, this hypothalamus that I mentioned, this brain part of the brain stem. So we can, best thing to use is the back of a teaspoon when you've got hot flushes, and move it around. And you can stroke upwards as well, back up to the center of the brow. And again, it's showing here, move up from between the brows to that brain reflex point. Yeah. So actually this point here correlates to the heart reflex. So it's just calming your body down. And then what we're going to do is work on the chin. Now the chin is where the reproductive area is in terms of facial reflexology. So we have uterus and the ovaries here. So the easiest way to do it is to either massage, the easiest way is to use the back of a teaspoon here. Again, in an oval shape, but actually on a horizontal oval. So a line like that around the chin. And once it gets warm, you just take a fresh spoon out so it's nice and cool. And again, it's indicating about 30 seconds here. So when I do it on the client, it's actually manipulating these points here. So these are also points, so correlating to the testes and the prostate in the male, but in the female, it's the uterus and the ovaries. So, okay. So we're going to move on now. Sinus problems. Now, this is the sinus reflex. People think, oh, the sinus is here. But actually, if you start from the start of the brow, closest to the nose, and then press, this is where you need to apply really firm pressure and slide the index fingers across the top of the brow to the outermost edge. And that is that's the sinus reflex on the facial reflexology. So just smoothing it and putting pressure on, sliding it outwards and around here and here. And it's quite firm. And then again, around the nose here, you can see it pressing out underneath the cheekbones a little bit in a triangle formation, pressing down. How you do it is really not, it's not really a specific pathway to do this. It's just basic what feels right for you. If you want to do this, you can do some sliding as well. And again, there's a point here in front of the ear. So we can then just rotate that point, press in and then rotate a couple of times. Press in. When you're close to the flap of the ear, and then press and rotate. Press in and then rotate on that spot. So that's the sinus buster. So I think that's enough to show you for now, because there's plenty more. Obviously, if you've never had a reflexology treatment before, I would wholly recommend it. Not just because I offer it myself, but I practice what I preach. So I have regular monthly reflexology treatments, and I alternate between foot and facial reflexology, well, zone facelift. So zone facelift, just to explain, it's an extension of facial reflexology, includes the whole facial reflexology sequence, but adds on crystal work, gua sha, and stimulating massage on the face. So it does work with zone therapy. So it's an enhancement, if you like, of facial reflexology. But facial reflexology is beautiful on its own as well. And currently, because it is World Reflexology Week, that's why I wanted to squeeze it in today. It was supposed to be on Monday, but I had it was a very busy week last week, fully booked, and I just come back the week before from Slovenia, and I had done my taekwondo grading on Sunday, so it was a bit manic, and I didn't have time to prepare. So that's why I wanted to squeeze it in now on the Sunday before Reflexology week ends. So it started on the 22nd, it finishes today, and this week I've been offering anybody, including my clients, £50 off a treatment. The discount code Reflex Joy is up still and can be applied to claim that £15 off any reflexology treatment. So that includes facial reflexology, foot reflexology, zone facelift, any version of it, and cranial reflexology. So I don't offer hand reflexology independently, it's included in the menopause reflexology for menopause, the hand. So that is a combination of foot, hand, and face. But to be honest, the hand reflexology is not a long enough treatment to offer as a standalone. So it's usually incorporated as part of something else. So yeah, so it's foot, face, and cranial reflexology, including the zone facelift, that's on offer. So you can go to my website, mindbodyoasis.co.uk. Under the packages and offers page, you'll see more information. You can also email me at my business email, or you can text or call me on that number on the screen. So yeah, it ends tonight, midnight tonight. But you can redeem it, so you can place the booking anytime between now and the end of October with that code, but the code does expire tonight. And then I'll open up the floor now to any questions that you may have. Let me know. I hope I'm still recording here. I don't know whether I have. Don't even know whether I'm still recording. No, I am. So yeah, let me just open it up. Anybody interested in asking me a question? You can put it in the chat if you want, or you can open up your mic. Up to you. Any queries? No questions? No, I don't have any in chat. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yes, no, thank you so much for your talk, really. Because loads of these points, we use it just as a relaxation, really,
Yeah.
around the nose and on the forehead.
Yeah.
And but I think just to put them in a more perspective, that was helpful, really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Surinder. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for joining. I know it's rather last minute and I've had probably not enough time to prepare it, but but hopefully it's given you enough insight and
that's right.
And obviously for those that are not familiar with it, it gives them even more of an insight and understanding of what reflexology is all about, what types there are and how it can help the body systems, and obviously with mental and emotional
absolutely. I think especially for insomnia and from the relaxation, the stress point of view, we use these types of things, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, huge. Because the biggest, I would say, disease at the moment is stress. It's stress, isn't it? The stress is brings the body out of balance and affects the immune system incredibly, and adversely. So we need to actually find ways to reduce stress in our life. And obviously reflexology is just one way. We can do walking in nature. We can even being amongst like-minded, positive-minded people can help reduce stress, and doing things that we enjoy, flow things, and just learning to be with us quietly with ourselves, through either mindfulness, meditation, and breath work. So breath work and meditation are often synonymous. They often go hand in hand. So yeah, there's a meditation tonight at 10 o'clock. I'm going to plug that because I lead a group meditation every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Again via Zoom. So if you are interested, you can reach out to me as well and ask about that.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me, and I appreciate that. and take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.